Hey, you talking about retirement. You mentioned training camp. Training camp rolled around like a month ago. One thing I've noticed over the last 4 years is how I feel in August and how it's way different. Like when you go into August as a retired dude, you have a rep at it. What does it feel like to you? Were you relieved? Like, are there things you missed about training camp? When you turn on NFL Network and see guys doing drills, like, how do you feel?
I mean, last year, my first year out, I was happy. I was in pain, and that was real recent in my mind of how I felt about the game. You know, when you're grinding to get through a week of practice, like, and when you're doing things that used to be so fundamental and so routine, and it was like a freaking high effort, like you had to focus on things, you had to like, and there's pain involved. Like that's when football doesn't become fun. But after a year of like really just letting my body heal and having some, compounded rest, which you can rest in the offseason when you're playing on winning football teams, but there really is no rest. Especially if you're playing into January every single year. We went to AFC Championship 9 times in my career in a row. Like you're getting no off season, especially if you're a high, like competitive guy, which we had a lot of those guys. Like even when you won a Super Bowl that next year, you had to work harder because you had the target on your back. So you don't really rest. So after I've had a little time to rest, like now my body's like, man, I should be smoking like 2100s right now. Like, cause when you went into camp, that's the best you felt. That's the best you're going to feel all year. After that, something in training camp could happen. You're always like high tuned going into training camp. At least I was, I loved the beginning. Like you just felt fast.
That first team meeting where there's all that buzz in the meeting room and
buzz.
You're waiting on Bill to walk in.
Yeah. Everyone's got a little swaggy something, like a cool pair of shoes. It's like the first day of school,
Yeah.
You haven't seen the fellows in a while. Everyone had their month off or whatever, so you miss that, but you don't miss like week 2 or week, when you're in 18 days in and there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
I do agree with you. Like the first fall is the easiest because you're kind of you're riding the high of making a life decision and taking things into your hands. And like for you, I heard you describe it as like, I didn't have anything left in the tank physically. And when you make that decision, you're so afraid to make that decision for so long. Once you do, you feel kind of empowered by it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to live the next chapter of my life. This is exciting. There's a bunch of firsts. You're like, oh, the leaves are changing and I'm drinking on a Saturday. I'm watching college football at a bar till 1 a.m. Like this is fun stuff. I get to gamble on football. Like there's all these perks, but then the second and third, and now I'm going, I think on my 4th year out, like you eventually are like, okay, I kind of miss it. Like there's a part of me, there's a missing piece that, is never going to get kind of occupied again. And it can get a little lonely in the fall. And I wonder this fall, as you kind of enter that phase, if you're thinking about taking any calls, you're working out and shit like that, be real, man. Like you're not working out for nothing, are you?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. You can't just, people don't realize you can't, like, it's not like, especially when you're older, you can't just work out for a week, take a Gatorade shake, go run a conditioning test and get ready for fucking, 18 weeks of football.
Yeah.
It's a huge mind commitment.
Yeah.
Like you have to, you can't dip your toe in. You got to dive into that thing. So like I'm doing things in like where I'm in like a beginning phase of like an off season ish, just kind of feeling out my body and feeling out my legs. I mean, I've had some downtime. My body feels good. There's some deficiencies here and there, but I feel like extremely better than I did, the last year and a half of my career. So I don't know if it's foos gold, just because I haven't been compounding loadage. That's why, you get interested. So then you kick it up a little bit here and there and you analyze, you don't make decisions. And that's what I'm doing.
So I played softball the other night and I feel great. Like the first time running around the bases, I'm like, man, I'm still fast. I've been working out. I feel good. And sometimes I think I could still fucking do it. And maybe I could. But the question isn't, could you do it on a Sunday? It's, could you do it the next Sunday after that and the next one after that? Because I woke up after playing softball and I felt like I got run over by a fucking semi-truck. And that wouldn't have happened at 31 years old, 27 years old, because you're in that shape where you never stepped off the treadmill. But like, do you know how you'll feel on a Monday if you go take 20 snaps? You know what I mean? Like, you're used to doing 50, 60 snaps a game. Like, you know, if you come back and you play 15 plays for a team, like, who knows how that feels? I think that's the biggest mind fuck of like taking a break and feeling like Superman.
That's exact. It's like Interstellar when they travel to a different world, and like the time is like it like when you take the year off, bro. When you get back on the field, you're like 80.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just because your body gets calcified to hitting and your body gets calcified to practicing against men at a high level. Like everyone can go out and train at 100 miles an hour, but it isn't until you get another man across from you and you guys are banging and you got to use little intrinsic strengths on your ankles, your knees, your fucking glutes.
Your proprioception, Jules.
Your proprioception, bro.
Yeah.
Proprioception. You're so smart.
I know, dude.
It reminds me of the astronauts when they're in outer space. They got to strap down. They got to exercise to, you know, stress those muscles or the bone density leaves.
Yes, dude. We just had an astronaut on here. He was talking about all the working out they have to do up there because you atrophy up in space. Why are you thinking about being an astronaut or something? That's two space references.
No, but I literally was thinking to myself, that's my second, maybe I have it.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.